Good evening all, welcome to another Kingscrusher radio show. This is on PlayChess.com and stream to YouTube. So we're going to carry on looking at the best of the best for the 1960s, part 5 of 5. And our first game to look at is Fischer against Fine. So this is played in New York, 1963. Okay, let's have a look. I think this was actually a casual game, and so maybe risks in the opening, it's more of a casual game, risk in the opening could be tolerated, more on the fun side of things. Fischer playing white, played e4. Actually, I might have that wrong. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It seems my impression was a casual game, but actually, I mean, it may have been a tournament game. If someone could confirm, I think this was just a game played in New York Chess Club. Okay, so anyway, so e5 from Ruben Fine, knight f3. We see knight c6. Bishop c4, bishop c5, and now we see the Evans Gambit. So this is a gambit from the Romantic era of chess, and let's add a kibitzer actually here just in case. So Ruben Fine, he took that. And now after c3, bishop dropped back to a5, d4, e takes. This is pretty standard stuff so far. And white castles. Now quite often in this position, black plays knight ge7. And I think this is supposed to be about equal after c takes. This energetic d5. Quite often this kind of central d5 does dampen the excitement of gambits. And here it should be around equal, but okay, so there is this line knight ge7 to try and take the fun out of the position, but Ruben Fine dared to take on c3, so the fun factor is well and truly alive here. Black has grabbed another pawn, not developed pieces, and Fischer probes that f7 pawn now. And it's a bit tricky actually here. We see the move queen e7, which may actually be it's black significantly worse after this. Perhaps best, it seems a move like queen f6 or maybe knight h6, but it seems queen f6. This continuation might have been the way to go to try and neutralize white. It's important to try and neutralize white's pressure here. But in the game, yeah, this move that was played in the game, queen e7, is a little bit suspect. We see knight takes c3, and now after knight f6, this is just a very strong position for white after knight d5. With the black king in the centre, you'd expect some sort of disaster here. Just because the bishop's defending c7, it looks pretty disastrous. If this isn't played, if this wasn't played, if queen takes e4, let's have a look. Possibly. Well, very strong this is one very strong idea. And if here you can see rook e1, bishop takes check, and we're going to be winning that queen. It's all pretty nasty stuff already here. Okay, so yeah, the black king's in the center. It's going to be punished. We see knight takes d5, e takes, knight e5, and Fischer just takes on e5, queen takes, And we see bishop b2, so it's a lovely position, massive initiative. And here there's a really clever move played after queen g5, but there's other moves which are also very strong. But the move played does have an emphasis on taking away escape squares of the black king. So quiz question, what would you play in this position? There's probably several good moves actually which are all winning by this stage. Yeah, there's at least 3 sort of winning moves, clearly winning, maybe even more. There's a lot of moves that are just winning. But what would you choose? So white to play. What would you choose? I think Fischer's move is up there as one of the technically strongest moves. It's such a strong position actually. Maybe it's not the best question, what would you play? There's a lot of moves, yeah, which are very, very strong. Anyway, so I'll just tell you Fischer's choice. h4, he's trying to play for bishop takes g7 to take away this key escape square, to leave the king stranded in the center. This happens now after queen takes, bishop takes g7. If black doesn't take on h4, then it's just pretty horrible. This position here, for example, it's just, we can even do this. If black ever castles, it's just incredible, the pressure in this position with the bishop here. This is just fatally weakening now. There'll be no real defense to be had here. So yeah, queen takes h4, we have bishop takes g7, so this key escape square is taken away from the king, and the king is actually kicked to d8 now, so not very safe there. And a very simple and effective move was played in this position. White to play. What would you play in this position? So the only thing holding black from being mated with bishop f6 is this queen on h4. So how would you lure the queen, the black queen, away from its defensive duty? Yeah, I'm hoping you could all guess at least one way. But even actually in this position, queen b2 is strong, just protecting the bishop for bishop f6. This is really strong. But yeah, Fischer played another super strong move, just queen g3, trying to lure the queen away from f6. And that was the end of that. That was the end of this game. Black resigned here. He hasn't got much to do. So if he took, yeah, bishop f6 is checkmate. So yeah, Fischer sometimes took risks in the opening, played gambits. This was an interesting, entertaining approach. Pretty direct. Okay. So let's have a look at the second game. I hope you got something from that. Lack of development from black. King safety, taking away key escape square. And that was pretty devastating. The second game I'd like to show you is another Fischer game actually. Fischer against Palbenko. And I believe the story is Palbenko had a date the night before and maybe overdid it. Maybe didn't get much sleep the night before. That's the kind of story I have in mind, but it might be I'm not entirely sure on the details of that. But okay, I think Let's have a look at this game. So Fischer against Palbenko, e4. This was played in the US Championship 1963, overplaying to 1964. So 30th of December 1963. So g6, modern kind of defense, modern. d4, bishop g7, knight c3. We have Austrian attack territory, f4. We're going to transpose into the Austrian attack, knight f6, knight f3. Palbenko castles, bishop d3. And black now plays bishop g4, which has some logic behind it to try and soften white on the dark squares. Fischer actually welcomes this exchange. He plays h3. So, yeah, with the bishop pair, can they be that effective in this position? We see knight c6, logical play in many respects. Bishop e3, e5, so black striking at the d4 square, which he's kind of logically weakened. But Fischer now plays d takes e5, which guarantees with a pawn there, it's not so bad, the dark square play in some respects. A pawn is occupying that key parking space on the dark squares. Not only that, this f5 is threatening potentially to swamp black. Now black may be a bit nervous about g4, g5, f6. Let's see, he actually did a move which looks a little bit suspect because it like fractures the structure. He played this. Now let's see if he plays, let's say king h8. It's possible that g4 is actually a strong move here. Engines like it as well. Just threatening g5 and f6. It's just simple stuff, but it's really quite dangerous in this position. If g takes there, even this position with the pawn on g4, it's quite dangerous. But anyway, that's taken immediately to try and stop this maybe onslaught of pawns. Now if e takes, I think black would be getting some counterplay with e4 to be avoided. It opens up some piece play, and that's definitely to be avoided. Black would perhaps have some active play. Fischer doesn't want that. So he took with the queen, keeping this pawn firmly locked on e5, which locks in the bishop as well. And this is a nice square to have in the absence of that g6 pawn. We have knight d4 hitting the queen. The queen dropped back to f2. Now we have knight e8 and white castled. And he's got a good locking key on that f5 square. You can see this bishop, this pawn, the battery here. It's all locking down this f5. So we see knight d6, which seems to have the idea that maybe in fact c5 could be good to entrench that knight, and maybe in the future look forward to f5 might be an idea. But queen g3 now is played, and there are some dangerous threats already set up here. Bishop h6, for example, is a concern, even though there's knight e6. This could get very dangerous. Give you an example. Say black did a token move. Bishop h6, knight e6, takes. It's dangerous, this position. Losing that pawn is not good there. So anyway, black actively unpins the bishop, avoiding this bishop h6, which would weaken e5. Now, a very technically precise looking move is played here. Queen g4. Yeah, just moving the queen up one square. It keeps a lock on the f5 square. If white didn't keep lock on the f5, there might indeed be f5 from black. So say this sort of move. Although it doesn't appear this is possible, this under certain circumstances this might be possible. But here, okay, I think white's still okay. You can actually just take that there and end up with a good position. But nevertheless, it's not totally crushing. So it's something to watch out for, this f5. So that might be part of the logic. Might be part of the logic of Queen G4. It locks down that f5 possibility. It looks ridiculous to play f5 here. I think that could just be taken safely with no hassle. So we see c6 now, and now Queen h5, which is looking at that soft spot. Of course, the bishop's blocked in at the moment. How could that bishop possibly be useful on h7 later? Well, we see the move Queen e8, and in fact, the whole mechanism of f5. I mean, it looks like Black really wants to play f5 to hit the queen now, which is now loose. So if White played a casual move here, for example this, I think you just blow it totally with f5 now, hitting the queen. And then even this would be starting to be looking okay for Black potentially. So this whole f5 mechanism is totally destroyed now by this sequence, totally wrecked. This is such a radical way of stopping any f5 counterplay. This next couple of moves, we see the whole f5 mechanism trashed. White play here. What would you play with White? You see, Black's relying on f5 to kick the invasive queen as well, away from the king, because that's unpleasant to have the opponent's queen next to your king. But that unpleasantness is kind of guaranteed. Fischer guarantees this absolute unpleasantness of this menacing queen hovering around the king here by this next couple of moves. And then the first move Fischer played is bishop takes d4, which potentially opens up this diagonal. But surely, if the knight moves, surely there's f5, yeah? And Black would be doing not just fine, Black might actually be getting a small advantage here. For example, this position. You can see Black's laughing now here in this position. He might even have some pawn mobility. This would be miserable. This is actually pawn mobility with c4. This knight's facilitating c4 here. Can take time even. Doesn't need that. It's got pawn mobility. The bishop's good. Pawns are good. Everything would be so happy for Black. But that didn't happen. No. There wasn't a knight e2. This is a stunning, iconic move here. Is played. Iconic move alert. Played. What would you play? What would you play here? Iconic move. Now, someone said e5 Joe's real back. e5 looks tempting, right? Let's have a quick look at e5. It so happens that f5 actually stops that attack and hits the queen. That's pretty tragic from White's perspective. So say queen takes, there's actually knight takes as well. And again, Black would be having escaped much of escaped all the issues really after f5. So we've really got to lock down this f5. And Fischer's move is rook f6. It blockades, tactically blockades f7. So clearly Fischer was a Nimzovich fan, blockading the f7 pawn, which is key for mating Black on h7 here. So yeah, Deblockade, as Nimzovich says. Deblockade. When the pawn's blocked, it's blocked. Pawns, there's two things to remember about pawns. The first thing is they don't go backwards. And the second thing is they can be blockaded. So those are two key points to bear in mind about pawns. And Fischer's making use of one of the points, that a pawn's blocked, it's blocked. And with that blockage, the whole defensive resources are shut down with rook f6. And the thing is here, if bishop takes, now e5, that without any f5, is just striking at h7 without any defense, really. Black can just delay the inevitable with this. He's just going to get mated. So this is a very powerful tactical blockade to make sure black hasn't got any defensive resources. Very cruel, very cruel. We see the move King g8, e5, threatening the mate. Black plays h6. And there were two moves that are really strong. Fischer played one of them. Fischer played knight e2 now. This is just winning now. Let's have a look at this final position. Black resigned here at move 21. Let's have a look. If bishop takes f6, queen takes h6, and we're threatening mate, and this congestion is just painful as well. Say knight f5, that's the only way to carry on. That's just going to get mated. So that doesn't really help at all. That's the whole point. It's just there's no defense after knight e2. And say the knight wants to remain there with c5. White could just take this piece up. That's simple. And just be a piece up, actually, if he wants. Doesn't mind being a piece up here. It's that simple. Yeah. Or he could just go for it with rook h6. This is also crushing. Just going for it there, threatening rook h8 check and queen h7. There's a mate in 2 threat there. I'll just show you that on the board. Check and a mate is a mate in 2 threat. I mean, it's just all winning. If f5 here, again, white's just totally is crushing. So queen takes, there's check, winning even more material in the exchange. It's totally all over. Take the exchange at leisure. So knight e2 is sufficient. Just for the record, knight e4 is also just winning here. After knight takes e4, bishop takes. Again, if bishop takes f6, queen takes h6 is mating. And here, in this position, rook takes h6 anyway, threatening rook h7 now and queen h7. And if here, this position is all over. One example is rook f1, and if rook takes check, this is a dramatic example. Just winning material, scooping up material. It's all pretty painful anyway. So there's various ways, well, at least 2 major ways of winning this position. Even knight d1 is winning here. Actually, just shows the strength of it. Yeah, if the knight's going back, then we can actually here play queen f5 if the knight ever leaves f5. And that's going to be, that's all over. So yeah, it's all over after knight e2. So that's what happens when you have a hot date the night before and you're up all night and you have to play Fischer the next day. So you have to remember that. Next time you're playing someone that's going to be world champion in a few years' time, you at least need to, sleep well the night before if you're going to play them. Yeah? No hot dates the night before. So that was the lesson there. Okay. This is a short one. This has been a short session today. I'm going to go now to watch Holby City. From the start in soon. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this and have a good week. See you next week. Thanks very much.